Hello everyone, and as you can see, we've got off to a great start this morning, and that's all thanks to Jamie, who's out on the other vehicle. She found the tracks of these Birmingham male lions, and we moved into the area to give her a hand, and it didn't take us long to bump into them. They are just on the opposite side of the Djuma Dam, where there's a live waterhole camera, and a big thanks to Kevin for all of the updates. Kevin was watching the Djuma waterhole camera last night, and the interesting thing is he heard these lions, but I don't think he could actually see them. So again, thanks for your updates. It doesn't look like they've killed anything, Kevin. It could have been a small buffalo maybe that you heard in distress that they've caught and finished already, but I'm guessing that they actually haven't been successful, although their stomachs are quite full, but no signs of blood around their mouth. And I'm sure if they had made a successful kill, they would have come to have a small drink at the little waterhole where we would have actually been able to see them. So like I say, all 5 of the Birmingham males. My name is Scott, and I'm teamed up with Wium on camera, and like I say, Jamie is out on the other vehicle. So let's show you all 5 one by one. You can see 4 in the current frame. 3 are easy to see, 1's further away. Then just down to our left here, there's another individual. This one is known as Scrapper. He's got very distinctive eyes that are quite menacing. And then the 5th male, who's the furthest one away from these 4, is in some thick bush over there, and if you look closely you'll notice that there is also another lion lying just next to him. It's a lioness though. We're not sure who she is, we haven't had a close look at her yet, but interesting stuff that one lady is trailing them, possibly mating. I'm just going to update Taxon on the radio quickly. He's just, oh no, Jamie's going to do that for me. We've got some more interesting updates that have come through from Karin, Ravi and John, and it's going to help us piece together the puzzle of what may have happened with these lions last night. And all 3 of those people mentioned that they heard buffalo that sounded like they were in distress, that they were running. And interestingly enough, just before we got here, I didn't mention to Wium that it looked like a herd of buffalo had moved past that little waterhole, but in the general area there was a lot of churned up earth where their hooves would have been moving at high speed. So maybe these lions did have an attempt at trying to catch a buffalo, but were unsuccessful, as predators most often are. It's the prey that are more successful at escaping. But these 5 boys certainly do know how to bring down buffalo. But even still, with all their size and strength, it's not an easy task. Well, I'm not too sure exactly where these lions were yesterday, so I have no idea how far they may have traveled over the course of the night, but Jamie did find their tracks on the kind of north and western portion of Djuma, so maybe they came in from Buffels Hook, our northern neighbor. And I stand to be corrected, but I think it's been close on 2 weeks, possibly even a bit longer than that, since these 5 males have been back to Djuma. So I think the whole time that I was on leave, they've been elsewhere. So aren't we lucky that they've come back? And it's important that they do come back, because they are in the process of establishing this area as their core territory. Not just Djuma, but Djuma and surroundings. But because they've been quite successful in quite a short space of time. I don't think they've strategized and been able to plan how they're going to patrol this large territory of theirs. And for them to have not been back onto the property here for 2 weeks is an example of that. Possibly kind of lack of experience being landowners. Their property will need upkeep and maintenance, and that's all relating to patrolling and making sure that no other males are infiltrating, as if they do, they may run the risk of their cubs being killed. Not that they have any cubs yet, but in the coming months I'm sure they will have a few. Well, if some buffalo come down now, we will get some action. But for now, they're looking quite sleepy. Oh, you see, just as I said that, something's got their attention. What is it? They've possibly heard something. I'm guessing that's what it is for. These toots have picked up their heads so quickly. Look at how beautiful they are in this morning sunlight. But obviously nothing too serious. And I've just heard a vehicle, so maybe it was the low rumbling engine of the vehicle that kind of took them by surprise. They may have thought it was a grumbling roar of another lion. So even the animals make mistakes. It'll be a very common sound for them, the audio of a vehicle, which they've become very used to and shouldn't be scared of, but I made a little mistake there. So as we see them lying here quite sleepily, I'm sure a lot of you may wonder what they get up to after dark, how different their behavior may be. Well, I know certainly Jeff in Florida would like to know how their behavior will alter or change from day to night. And a lot depends on the time of year, Jeff, as well as the pride of lions. And we've just got another vehicle joining us here, and they've got some WildEarth viewers on the vehicle. So isn't it wonderful? I think I'm just going to ask Wium to pan across and show you Taxon with some WildEarth viewers that have come out all the way here on safari to see the Birmingham males, and haven't they got lucky? They've had a wonderful trip so far. And that's Terry and Carol on the back, and Liz and Tom on the front, and Taxon and Fanwell taking them on an adventure. Wonderful. Sorry, Jeff, back to your question. Their behavior will generally be more active at night, and that's across Africa. They have the ability to be more successful, or potentially more successful, at hunting at night time with the cover of darkness aiding them. And it's also generally cooler. So in all the areas I've worked, lions have definitely done the majority of their movement at night time and the majority of sleeping during the day. Cubs will also kind of just fit in with the rest of the pride. They'll start moving with the pride from about 3 months of age, so, and even younger than that, but they will also be kind of on the same wavelength as their parents. It's a good question, Jeff, because we don't spend much time out at night, so it's difficult to know exactly what goes on, but hopefully in the future we will be afforded to, with the right technology, to go out more at night time and get a better insight as to what they do, because so much of our time that we spend with them is while they're asleep. And I think our odds would be a little bit better if we were out at night. Oh, I've heard something again. Interesting stuff. But, again, possibly a false alarm. So a lot of the questions this morning are coming through from Florida. The next one's from Mike. And thank you for the belated birthday wishes. And I hope all is well over in Florida. And I think it's this individual here, Mike, that you are thinking about, who Mike was lucky enough to be tuned in when these 5 males caught a young buffalo this time last year. And you're right, Mike, time certainly does fly. And it was the blonde male who could be this one, or it could be the one over with the female, who's kind of changed a little bit in shape and form since this time last year. But one of them was certainly dominant and trying to keep the herd of buffalo at bay that were running in to try and save their herd member. They were unable to do so, so I think it was this individual here, Mike. I'm not sure what you think. His mane's not as blonde as it used to be, but he's the biggest of them, and that's why he's the one lying next to the lady, who's just off to his left, if some of you may have just joined the show. Hard for us to see her, but we will reposition a little bit later and give you guys an opportunity to try and work out who this lioness could be. And thanks for all the support coming from Florida this morning. Now it's Liz in Florida, who wants to see that 5th male, which we've just given you a glimpse of, but like I said, we will reposition. And we'll maybe just give Taxon a few moments over there. He's on that side of the sighting now. And then we'll move across a little bit later. What a great start. And again, big thanks to Jamie, who was out, found their tracks, said they were heading in this direction. We were at a road junction about 100 meters away from us, actually. And I was initially planning on turning right when I got to the T-junction. And just before I got there, Jamie said, well, I found these tracks. They're heading in this direction. So I thought I'll check Mvubu Road, and after driving 50 meters, we came straight across these lines. So we got incredibly fortunate. But the interesting thing here is that had we have turned right and had have Jamie not found those tracks, we would have carried off in search of the wild dog, which were kind of left in our northeastern corner of Djuma last night. And those were our initial plans that changed quite abruptly. And I'm glad that our tracking, well, lack of tracking, actually, it was simply luck, was paid off, because Wium spotted them within a few minutes of Jamie's report. I am quite tempted to still go searching for those wild dog, but there's a lot more time this morning, and we may head off and do that a little bit later. I still have not seen this pack of 3 adults and 11 pups. So, looking forward to changing that. Well, I'm sure a lot of you are quite envious of the Djuma junkies, the WildEarth viewers who have come out here on safari. I know B. Wilson certainly is expressing their jealousy, but also happiness for them to be out here. And you're right, it's a huge privilege to come out here and be on safari, and I hope many more of you will also be able to get here at some stage. If not, though, we'll continue doing our best to take you out on safari daily. There's huge benefits to not actually being here and being wherever you are in the world watching the safari, you get to see often twice as much as any of the presenters do, because the cameras are taking you to wherever the action is. And like I've just said, I've not even seen this pack of wild dog that a lot of you would have spent quite a lot of time with by now. But I'm out here daily and not seeing that. So there are benefits to being at home. I guess it's similar to the benefits of watching a sports event at home as opposed to being at the stadium. You get to see the highlights and all the good shots and all the good angles. Now, there was another request from Julia asking for any help on whether or not I would be able to help identify a bird call that's early in the morning, a long high-pitched call, and I'm not too sure what it could be. I'm going to ask Wium to maybe zoom out a little bit and show you the wonderful angle that these guys have of the lions. Look at that, maybe that's a screenshot for the Juma Junkies page right there. It's a pity the lions don't have their head up, but isn't it wonderful that those two big males are right in the foreground there. So just to recap, for those of you who may have just joined the show, it's great that the 5 male lions that we're looking at now are back on Juma. It's been a while since they've been here, and they've been elsewhere, all around us really, and it's important that they continue to manage and patrol their territory, but they could well keep extending the size of their territory so that it becomes almost impossible for them to monitor it successfully or effectively if all 5 of them stick together. And that's going to be relevant when answering Michael's question. He's interested to know if these 5 will stay together for the future years or if there's a chance that they will split up. And depending on how successful they are, Mike, there is a strong chance they will split up. Not permanently, but they'll kind of move into little groups, either of 2 or 3, not necessarily fixed, that may change as time goes, and there's no set pair that will necessarily be together or set trio that will be together, that they will band up when necessary, but by being in 2 different groups, they'll be able to more effectively cover territories, and that way patrol and make sure that there's no intruders. So in all my experience in history, big coalitions of 5 or 6 males will be seen together a lot of the time as they establish their territory. Once they are established, they'll move into kind of groups of 2 and 3. But if the need rises, there's a fight nearby, there's other males coming in, they can call their coalition members from nearby, and they'll band up as all 5 or 6 again and get rid of any harm, and then split up, and that way more effectively patrol. So that's usually how it works. Also, if there's a buffalo kill, for example, we're going to send you across to Jamie quickly. She's got something interesting. You'll be back with us shortly.
And a very good morning to all of you, and welcome to the sunrise safari on this rather chilly start to the day. And it seems as though the dwarf mongoose agree with me. They are all sitting on the eastern side of the termite mound. Very, very chilly. Let's just have a look at this amazing dwarf mongoose. I have never seen anything like this before. And as far as I can tell, I don't think this one is covered in ash or anything like that. It's some kind of color variation, I think. It looks, I don't know, it almost looks like it's got face paint on, Halloween face paint. that hasn't washed off. Its face is almost completely white. If it would very kindly turn around, which I don't think it's going to do just yet. That's incredible to see. I've never ever seen that before. I'm going to have to go and do some research into color variation on dwarf mongoose, especially isolated to one patch of fur around the face. It is so interesting. Oh, big yawn. Somebody was very sleepy. And that little one who just turned around and started climbing there has a couple of bite marks around its skin. Maybe got into an altercation with possibly one of the other mongoose. It could also have been a predator. And lucky escape. There it is. You can see the two wounds on the side. Nothing too serious. And this is a very busy termite mound. Perfect spot for sitting in the sun, which I completely sympathize with because I think I'm a little bit hypothermic. I keep underestimating how cold it is for midsummer. Oh, a little bit of grooming happening between them. As I said, just chatting a little bit earlier, there's the one with the injuries that I was speaking about. Definitely two puncture wounds. I'm not sure where that's from, whether it's from a fight with mongoose or possibly even a lucky escape from a bird of prey. Just looking at those puncture wounds. And dwarf mongoose, despite their small size, are not without their own defensive strategies. They've got teeth and claws and loose skin, and they're definitely going to fight back if threatened. It could be that this one had a lucky escape. Let's go back to that one because he's turned around. Look at that. I'm trying to look through. Wow. Don't you think it looks like he's wearing Halloween face paint? It is definitely his fur. He's not... It's not anything else. It's not a skin disease or anything like that. He just has white fur. Please take lots of screen grabs, everybody, and send them through to me on my... not only on #SafariLive, but also my Twitter account, because I really want to have a look and see what this is. If it's some kind of leucistic gene, so that slightly pale gene. And one thought that did occur to me was that no, something gave him a little bit of a fright, but I can't see anything. It's definitely not us. Christy, you were wondering whether or not they go grey with age, and that might be the case. I have never heard of it, and I certainly have never seen it. You know, it might get a patch of grey around the muzzle or something, in the way that your pet dogs or cats might do, especially dogs. But to have an entirely white face, I don't know. That's a new one for me. I'm going to have to go look it up. We know that there, of course, are lots of animals out here with color variations, and there's leucism, as well as albinism and melanism, all different genetic variations. It really looks like a Halloween character. Eddie, Abby, you were saying you hope it's not mange. It's definitely not. It's not bald skin. Looking through my binoculars, that is white fur. And I'm not sure whether it's because of the color of the fur. No, it definitely doesn't have red eyes. That is so interesting. I don't know what it is, honestly. It's some kind of color variation, but it is a mystery to me. as to what that really has been caused by. I just know it's probably the most interesting little dwarf mongoose I've ever seen. Look how clearly that one stands out. You can see why white is such an interesting color out here. If we're sitting looking at them as a whole as we are now, your eye immediately goes to that little white patch. I wonder what kind of, I mean, that's a full-grown dwarf mongoose. It hasn't disadvantaged it in any way. Donovan, maybe we do have the beginnings of the white-faced mongoose new species. The other mongoose don't seem to mind. An important lesson in tolerance. Wow. And then that brown strip down the middle. Perfectly symmetrical. Well, this has definitely been one of the most interesting sightings that I have seen. But I know that Scott has repositioned and he has found the female. I think it's time for us to head across to him. And I will catch up with you a little bit later. Never fear, I'm going to go and investigate the lions that were seen on the Arathusa Dam camera. And I will be back with you in just a while.
You'll notice we've repositioned the vehicle and I've got a much better view of this lioness for you. And at the perfect time, she's lifted up her head so you can get to have a good look at her. Feel free to let us know who you think she may be, or which pride she may be from. Probably the Styx pride or Nkuhuma pride, or who knows, possibly even a member of the Salala pride. But with all the chaos and confusion regarding lions and their territories at the moment, I'm not going to hazard a guess. But if any of you have managed to get to know the lioness well, feel free to voice your thoughts, but we might need to get you a few better views than the brief one you've just had. Then the largest of the 5 Birmingham males is lying off just to her right. Interestingly, she got up and moved just a few meters to reposition, and as soon as she got up, he was up and on her tail. He wasn't taking any chances with the 4 other males nearby. They will compete with one another for rights over lioness. Not necessarily every single time a lioness comes into the equation will there be a fight, but every couple of months possibly one male may think, well, you know what, you were big a few months ago, but now I'm willing to challenge you. And you'll notice I've got myself into, I like hiding, being in a point of ambush when watching the lion, so that I feel like I'm one of them. In case some buffalo come down, we'll be in a position where we're ready to pounce. I'm only kidding, this was just to get a good view of the lioness. And I was also telling the viewers on the other vehicle that I promise I'm not hiding from them, because it appears like we are in hiding mode here. But like I was saying, the males will compete with one another for ladies. And one thing we were chatting about earlier is how coalitions of males may split up. And one reason why some of the lesser males may enjoy splitting up is that it increases the second in charge's likelihood of mating. And if by luck the most dominant male in this pride isn't around when there is a mating opportunity, he will still certainly tolerate the cubs of his fellow coalition members. Whereas they certainly will not tolerate cubs side by males of another coalition. And on the topic of these males and the intricacies between them, Sandy would like to know if these are all brothers and how old they are. Now, I'm not entirely sure exactly how old each individual is, but it appears like one is older, and I'm guessing he's maybe just over 5 years of age, and this is him on the right here. Then 3 that look to be the same age, so those could well all be brothers from the same litter, and then 1 that's slightly smaller, who could be a cousin. So it's an older cousin, 3 brothers and a younger cousin, as far as I'm aware, but they all would have been from the same natal pride, so they were all born and raised together, but at slightly different periods possibly. And usually that's how coalitions are created. They are created by luck, and it's brothers and cousins that can band together when it's time for them to leave home. It's not the only way that it works though. You will find scenarios like young Junior in the Nkuhuma Pride, 1 young male who's unfortunate in that he doesn't have any brothers or cousins that he can head off with, so he'll head off on his own, and he'll be in a situation where he may need to join up with other males, possibly youngsters, or possibly even an old male will accept him into his territory. But there's no fixed plan or path for any young male lion, so it'll be interesting to see what does happen in his future. These guys are lucky. It's not normal to see 5 together. Not normal, but they are very lucky to be all together. What was she doing there? I couldn't quite work it out whether she was trying to look up into the sky at a vulture or just stretching and getting comfortable, which is kind of wobbling her head around there. Now, I'm not sure what you guys think, but at the moment there is not too much going on here, and I'm thinking this afternoon and this evening is going to be the time that we should invest with these animals, and for now we could possibly go and look for something else. Now, there's no guarantees that a herd of buffalo doesn't arrive here in the next 10 minutes and an almighty battle ensues, so it would be a gamble to go elsewhere, but I think one that kind of makes sense. But send us through your thoughts on #SafariLive on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. If you are joining for the first time, this is a great way for you to get involved. It is an interactive safari, as you would have worked out, answering questions from lots of people all around the world, and it's good if you guys want to jump on board as well. Wium's just spotted the lioness. She's got her head up, so we'll take this opportunity to try and get you some more views of her. So we've got a few comments through, one from Janet saying this could possibly be the missing lioness from the Salala Pride. And you're right, Janet, there is one lioness missing from that pride of 5 who were last seen across on Arethusa. So that's a possibility. There's another comment through from Blair saying that one of the Styx lioness has been spending a lot of time with the Birmingham males, apparently. So thanks, Blair, helping narrow down the options as to who this could be. I wonder why she is hanging out with him. That's another question I guess a lot of you are asking. He doesn't appear to be moving effectively. Anyway, Jamie's got some exciting news and we're going to send you straight across there. Enjoy.
Exciting news indeed. Look who we have here. I need her to look at me. I think it's Shadow. We are on Arethusa after all. This hasn't been unknown for Karula to come wandering through, but I think that's, yes, that looks like Shadow to me. I'm sure you guys agree. Just in profile, she has a slightly flatter nose than some of the other leopards. Okay, let's see if we can sneak forward and get a good view. It's very, very thick in this block, but what an exciting moment. Tebbs and I were just talking this morning about finding a leopard, and there we go. We've got her. She's just enjoying the rays of the morning sun as well. Actually, if I go forward, I think I might send her walking off again, because the only way to go to reposition is to actually move straight towards her. And of course, as many of you know, hello girl, that's definitely Shadow. Many of our regular viewers will know that approaching an animal directly generally disturbs them slightly. And you've got to approach them at a sort of oblique angle, rather move next to them rather than directly at them. So we'll let her settle for the moment. I don't know what she's up to. She could well be hunting. It's the perfect time of morning. Oh, hello girl, I have not seen you in months. What a special surprise. For those of you who are a little bit more unfamiliar with the leopards that we see regularly, this is Shadow, a 9-year-old female and daughter of our special Karula. She's quite often seen around the Arethusa area. And I think now that her mother has finished mating with Tingana, who, by the way, she also sometimes mates with, she's moved back into her regular territory. She's actually quite sleepy. Her head's just drooping in the morning sun. Now, we've got this amazing spot, but I do need to share it with the other guides because I know that they're looking for leopards this morning, so please bear with me for one moment while I let them know. Our morning station, I've got visual of Shadow in the block south of Zebra Drive, I think between the junction of Shortcut and Tandaluka and Ellie Alley. How beautiful. Look at that. Perfectly captured in the morning sun. You can see every now and again she looks up and then her head droops, almost like she's having a cat nap. Now, Terry, you were saying that it's wonderful to see a leopard on Safari Live, and we just wanted to know how many leopards we see or might see in the Djuma and Arethusa area, and of course, barring the odd animal that might come in unexpectedly, we have Shadow and Kwetile in this area as the females, and Karula around Djuma, so that's 3 of them. Tingana and Mvula, the two big males, as well as the Anderson male every now and again. Kunuma in quarantine. Karula's adult sons sometimes pop their noses in. And who else have we got? Did I count Kwetile? Yes, I counted Kwetile. That's around 8 leopards that we regularly see, although quarantine and Kunuma, I would say, we're less likely to spot. They've been establishing territories just outside of our area. But definitely one of our special leopards, this shadow. I know that all of you, and myself in particular, have a soft spot for her. It's good to see her looking happy and healthy and fairly well fed as well. Mike, along with many others, have suggested that maybe she looks a bit sad. Personally, I think she looks a bit sleepy. I think, and I understand her completely, because I almost share that feeling on a chilly morning like this, to sit in the sun and just bask a little bit. Quite an enjoyable process. And I think if I were able to loop around her, which I can't do at the moment, you would see that her eyelids are drooping. She is, from my angle, which is difficult to show you from because I'm slightly lower than Tebbs, but she's just sleeping. Now, I mentioned that she looks happy and healthy. But Angel Lady, you were wondering if she looks pregnant? No, I don't think so. It would be a bit early for us to tell, which sort of brings me into Mo's question as to when we can expect to see cubs coming from Shadow. She was mating with Tingana. Bear with me one moment. She was mating with Tingana just before Karula was, which has led to many comments about poor old Tingana's the fact that he is under attack from all of the lady leopards in this area. Now, the gestation period is about 3 months if the mating was successful, which isn't always the case. And her last two have not been, or her last one was definitely not successful because she mated a second time with Tingana. So we're looking at another 2.5 to 3 months before we really start to see signs. It's between 100 to 105 days gestation period. And again, that just depends on whether or not that mating was successful, especially given the fact that Tingana has had to mate with so many other leopards recently. She's settled down. She is lying down. I think she's decided this is a good spot to have a quick nap. Cat napping. And leopards do this. They move through the bushes, stop and have a quick rest, sleep for a while. I still think she might be, they are opportunistic, so she might have been looking for something to hunt in this area. She definitely looks well fed though. That round belly comes from food, not from babies in this case. And as soon as a female leopard is pregnant, then she will stop mating with the males of the area, obviously, because she won't go into estrus. So if we see her mating again, then we know that she wasn't pregnant and that this session was not successful. Well, I really want to be able to reposition to get you a nice view of beautiful Shadow. While I do that, let's head across to Scott and his lions for a last few minutes with them, and I will be back with you later.
So this male's just flopped down. He's the big individual. We're still with him and the lioness. And well done to Jamie for getting you guys a great view of shadow. Incredibly lucky we all are this morning. Big cats all over, which is wonderful, because there have been a few dry spells over the last couple of weeks and days. As we look at this lioness, we're not sure which pride she's from, but Barbara in Texas would like to know what does her future hold? What is one lone lioness doing with these 5 males? And you'll probably find she's either seeking security with them, so she may have lost other members of her pride. I mean, that's one possibility. The other possibility is that she knows that she needs to forge a relationship with these males. So by spending time with them, kind of winning them over, it'll increase the other lioness and even possibly young males within her pride's chances of survival. Those are 2 variables. The other third one is that she's simply coming into season. These are her best possible options at the moment in terms of males to mate with, and she's getting ready to do that. So she's not necessarily a lone lioness, she's merely alone at the moment, and may well join back with her pride when the time needs be. Great to hear from another viewer who did come out and visit here in the Sabi Sands earlier in the year, and that's Brian from Philadelphia. Thanks for sending through a question, Brian. And he's asked a good one, still on the topic of mating amongst lions, and he's asked, will a lioness separate herself from the pride when it's time to mate, and possibly even follow males out of her core territory into the territory of another lioness? And yes, that certainly is possible. It's not something that I've ever seen, or seen as much as I have seen with leopards. We've been really lucky with learning that trait about them. We've seen leopardess who travel way out of their territories in order to mate with males, and it could well be very similar with lions, but I haven't personally seen it very recently in this area. But most lioness, I guess, will possibly need to take that risk in order to mate with the best possible male, and they will also know that by traveling with 5 big males, even if it is out of their core territory into another lioness or another pride of lionesses territory, the protection that these 5 males will offer them will probably be what causes them to feel safe in doing so. So good question, Brian, and good to know you're watching. I hope all is well in Philadelphia, and let us know when you're planning your next trip out to visit. The other lions, I'm just going to creep forward a bit, so just up ahead, so we'll have one last look at them quickly. There's one you can see there. I'm just going to drive ever so slightly into a little gap here, where we'll be able to see, I think, all 4 of them. Yeah, kind of. Won't be the best view of all 4, but they are all out here. So for those of you who have joined recently, we're going to give you one quick glimpse of them before heading off. I want to try and make it up to Buffelshoek Dam to see if we can't find any sign of the wild dog that were running around there yesterday. So there's 3. I wonder what he's dreaming about. Absolutely awesome. Fairly full-bellied. I mean, they're not starving, but they're not stuffed as lion can often be after gorging themselves on large prey. But good prospects for this evening. And Sherry and Haya did mention that their bellies do look full. So you're right, Sherry, but like I said, you probably agree they are not bulging as they sometimes can be after feeding on a very large kill. And Eddie Abby's noticed these hairy tufts off the elbows or the armpits of these lion, and you'll probably find that they're going to get even bigger. One of the Matimba males had exceptionally large tufts of hair growing off his armpits and even under the belly. I got a question through earlier from Lynn, and she was trying to kind of work out how do these lions one day fight with one pride and the other day be mating with a member from that pride, and that's Lynn in Michigan. And it's a good question, and I guess the best way to think of it is that if you are thrown onto an island with a whole bunch of humans that you don't know, there may initially be some arguments and kind of peacocking. Everyone's trying to work out who's who and establish dominance. But after time and after a few little skirmishes, you'll probably realize that everyone's not so bad, and you work out your differences and then start moving on. And it's the same with the lions. You know, these lioness are going to be resistant to 5 males that only... Okay, we're going to send you across to Shadowland. Sorry to cut your question short, but I will continue answering it whilst searching for the wild dogs. See you later.
As you can see, we've... Oh, exhausted cat. I was about to say, as you can see, we've managed to loop our way around and get a slightly clearer position as to where Shadow is, without, of course, sitting in the way of her son. Now, she sat up just a few seconds ago. She was looking off intently into the bush. Oh, another big yawn. But she's relaxed again. I don't know what it was. I don't know if she heard something moving through. She did look like she was about to, get up and start moving. Usually when cats yawn like that, it's a sign that they're about to move. Okay, bear with me a moment. We're going to have to reposition, and I can't do that when she's right behind the car. Okay, let's stay with her. Which way is she going? The other thing about leopards is that they don't always direction. I think she might be heading back to the road. No, she's going to stay here. We have to do a loop around. It's too thick for us to push through that way. Oh. Sorry, Tebbs. Get her. Sure, thick in here. The road. It's not really what I wanted to find. I wanted to find a leopard. Where did she go? This is too thick. Go that way. It's like doing a maze and trying to spot a cat at the same time. Where is she gone? Too thick here. do another loop. At least we managed to spend a bit of quality time with her though. Off-roading here. And while I do that, I saw that dwarf mongoose earlier with that interesting color variation. It's something that we see in guys, I know that it sometimes looks a bit serious when we drive over trees like that, but we pick the species that are young and can spring back. They'll be absolutely fine. It just looks a little bit hectic, but they will be back up. They spring up behind us. Where did you go, lady? It's more the risk of a flat tire than anything else. Now, we saw that dwarf mongoose with that incredible facial coloration. And Kelly, who's watching in Wisconsin, you wanted to know if I've ever seen a leopard with that color variation. Sorry, Gilly, you were wondering if I've ever seen a leopard with any kind of color variation like that strawberry leopard that Tara has been working with and has captured on camera traps before. And the answer is no, I haven't. It's definitely on my list of things to see. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can find her again. Where did she disappear to? Last time I saw her, she was just in here, moving in that direction. I think what we should do, whilst I try and find her again, and I think she might be heading to her favorite drainage line system, let's head back across to Scott for now, and I can focus on the search for Shadow. Be back with you later.
So, some excitement over there with Shadow and Jamie and all of you, and let's hope that Jamie has some luck relocating her. It's always tricky business in the thick bush, finding one of the planet's most elusive animal. And sorry, Lynn, all the way in Michigan, but we did have to rush you over there to Jamie a bit earlier. There was some potential action unfolding, and we were discussing lion dynamics and how it's interesting that males will one day fight with the pride of lioness and the next day be mating with them. But that's only in the initial stages, I guess, Lynn, once they're feeling one another out and getting to know one another. And it's the same with males who, like Junior, who may get kicked out of his pride shortly, or should technically already be gone. If he comes across another male lion for the first time, a big dominant male, they are going to have an altercation, not necessarily to the death, but they will work one another out, feel one another out in a fight. Then afterwards they may lie down next to one another, looking at each other and sizing one another up, and realize that, well, this actually could work out, and they then become coalition members. That's how it does sometimes happen, and I guess it's the same with the males and the lioness. Strange behavior, but kind of understandable to a degree. but always different. And that's the tricky thing with all these scenarios. There's never going to be a set formula that plays out in nature. There are going to be general trends, most certainly. But every scenario and every relationship between males and females of both lions, leopards, all the different animals will always be different. And I guess we can look at ourselves to realize that many humans have got different traits and personalities, and that therefore has effects on relationships. Difficult for us to always know exactly what's going on. Speaking of lions getting to know one another, the Birmingham Boys apparently did come across the Salala pride of 5, which is 2 lioness and 3 young males. But I haven't heard anything further about that. I know Ellie, Abby and Bedros are interested to know if there are any updates on the Salala pride after this interaction with the Birmingham Boys, and sadly haven't heard anything or seen anything. I'm guessing that they were just the guides in that area. I think it happened on Arathusa. We're just looking at the tracks, and the tracks indicated that there was some kind of a skirmish altercation, but up till now I haven't seen or heard any reports. Maybe Jamie knows something. But hopefully those 3 young males from the Salala pride are still in one piece. They're not in a fortunate position at the moment. At their age, for them to be in this area with these 5 males, the 5 Birmingham Boys, it's not looking pretty for them. And they've already been fleeing from the 2 Matimba males that fled initially from the Birmingham Boys. So the Salala pride just don't seem to know where to go or aren't picking the right spots. I'm just going to actually rethink my route and go onto Cheetah Cut Line. I was going to take this road up towards Buffalo's Hook Dam, but I think it'll be better for us to start with a wide search for the wild dogs. And the reason for that is that they can cover such huge distances in such short spaces of time with incredible stamina. So what we're going to do is do a big loop all the way around Cheetah Cut Line and then back up towards the Buffalo's Hook Dam. Chatting about the Salala pride now and the 3 young males. There's also 1 young lioness as well as 1 big old lioness, and that older lioness is missing her tail, as was her mother, an older lioness that I used to view about 5 or 6 years ago in the southern Sabi Sands. And I probably also viewed the current individual. She would have been a youngster back then, who's also missing her tail. Interesting stuff there. And Vicky would like to know if I've ever seen a tailless male lion, and no, I haven't. The only 2 tailless lioness I've seen have actually been the 2 tailless lioness of the Salala pride, the one we're viewing now and one I viewed many years ago. But I've no doubt that there have been 1 or 2 tailless males running around, either lost by fighting with other lions, or like the Salala lioness, they lost theirs to hyena. Just got a question through from Ramey, one of our seasoned safari goers. Reme's all the way in San Diego. And Reme has asked a question that I do not know the exact answer to. I've got a feeling that I do, but we're going to have to double check this. So if any of you know anything on the topic of lions and mange, please let us know the finer details, but I'm almost certain lions will get mange, Reme, but I've never actually seen one in that case. But like most animals, and I know with captive animals, I'm certain it happens. Captive wild big cats that are not looked after well could get mange, but I'm not sure if that's a result of them being in captivity. Jamie's just heard some crackles over the radio waves that there could be wild dog on Subambili, which is a kind of strange little property. It's not strange at all, let me reiterate that. It's a kind of thin section between the northern fence and Arethusa. So they could possibly pop out onto Arethusa if in fact there are wild dogs. Jamie did emphasize that the message was a crackly one. But whether that's the same pack of wild dogs that was seen yesterday afternoon by Jamie and James, or it's a different one, I'm not too sure. I'm too far away to try and contact those guides. We're kind of just about to hit our eastern boundary, and Subambili is off to our west. So we'll just keep that in mind. Just seeing some tracks here. They are wild dog tracks, but I think they're from yesterday. There's also a lot of hyena tracks here. And I'm just going to try and find some wild dog tracks that are nice to show you guys. But it's not going to be easy. What's nice though about the tracks here is that there's also some hyena tracks in the area, but it's all a little bit confusing. Sorry, I'm just trying to work out. So this tiny little track there on the end of my finger is a wild dog track, which does look similar to hyena, but it's not as large. But I need one right next to it, and the sun's already getting a little bit high to show you tracks clearly. But I think these are from where the pack were moving last night, not necessarily from today, so we'll continue. For those of you who weren't on the sunset safari yesterday, we are going to be changing times for the safaris, and we're going to be heading out half an hour earlier in the morning as of tomorrow, and that's in order to make the most of the early morning sunlight and to be out before it gets too hot, when most of the animals will start becoming sleepy. So 5 o'clock start Central Africa time, and we're not going to be changing the time of the sunset safari. That's still working quite well for us, so that's still going to be 4 p.m. Central Africa time until 7 p.m. and the morning is just going to be half an hour earlier, like I say, from 5 a.m. until 8 a.m. and this is the animal that they could well be snacking on. Somewhere in there you'll see a dark shape of a Cape buffalo. And what we're going to do is just work out which direction they're moving in and then try and get you a closer view. I don't think you can see anything at this stage. You reposition ever so slightly. Looks like a few big old bachelor bulls, so I don't think it's a large herd, but maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. Well, 3 of the big 5 this morning, not bad going in terms of the high profile animals. And who knows, maybe we'll be able to find you an elephant before the end of the safari. And that way we would have showed you as many of the big 5 as we are possibly allowed to. The only one that we cannot show you is the rhino. And the reason why we don't show the rhinos because we don't want to be involved in any way helping poachers gain knowledge as to where they are moving, as it is a critical condition, the state of rhino poaching in South Africa, and we don't want to be involved in any way. So just buffalo bulls it looks like for now. There's a herd of about 30 or 40 of them kind of bands together, quite a large breeding herd, or sorry, bachelor herd. I'm guessing this could be them. Jamie's still trying her best to relocate on Shadow, but hasn't had any luck yet. But she is still in that area. And like I said earlier, there's some incredibly tricky parts of this reserve to follow animals through. Especially leopard, who are so small and can change direction and change course so quickly that there's not much you can do to stay with them. Oh. He reversed out of frame perfectly as Wium got ready for the reveal. Well, this is not the most picturesque sighting, so I think we should carry on and set our sights for something else. It's a bit thick in here and we're never going to get sustainably good shots, so just a little glimpse of the Cape buffalo. There's not many vehicles driving around today, so I haven't heard many updates on the radio. It sounds like there's nobody on Buffalo's Hook. It was just Taxon that was out. Jamie's gone across to Arethusa, and That's the sum total of everyone driving around the properties that we can traverse here. You'll tend to find the busier the lodges are, or surrounding camps are, the more sightings are, which makes perfect sense. There's just more people searching, more people getting lucky. But there is a great sense of freedom when there isn't anyone around, and also that kind of exciting feeling that you know there's many areas of the reserve that haven't been checked. So everywhere we go now, there could be a surprise waiting for us. Like the larger as well as the giant kingfisher, but we don't get many giant kingfisher out here, not very commonly, so that would be a surprise. So we've got a comment through from Ria, who's acknowledging my mane that I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to compete with the Birmingham males. I know my style is not quite normal. It's almost like a duck's tail, but I'm just going with it for now, and we'll see what my head is doing tomorrow morning. Yeah, my hair's actually getting a bit longer than normal. It's getting a bit wild. So maybe I'm due for a shearing, although Nikki does like me to keep my hair long, so I'm following strict instructions from my girlfriend. Oh wow, we are in for a little treat here. Some surprises. I bet you no one would have guessed what you're about to see here. Not one, not two, but three hippopotamus. Very pleasant surprise. As the water's dropping, and this is the most hippo I've seen here in months. It's basically just been one or two for the whole of the winter. You'll also notice the bird on that very scarred back of the one hippo. Look at those scars. That is remarkable. So that hammerkops there. Oh, looks like it's seen something to catch. Got a hornbill calling above us. That's the noise you'll be able to hear very clearly, sitting in the torchwood tree above us. I cannot believe how hectic those scars are. The hippos are ferocious fighters. I think there may even be a fourth hippo, believe it or not. There must be a youngster just on the other side of the scarred back. I saw what looked to be a little head moving. So keep a close eye out. Well, I know some of you were in this area yesterday with James and Jamie and the wild dog sighting. So please let me know if there were in fact 3 hippo here, or if this is a new development from last night. There goes the hammerkop. What I'm thinking of doing is just repositioning the vehicle slightly, and while I do so, I can answer a question from Angel Lady. Hello, Angel Lady. What an interesting name you have. And Angel Lady would like to know if we see any paradise flycatchers, an equally interestingly named bird, in this area. And we certainly do. And I'll be able to show you where a pair of them were actually building a nest last year. It's just down this little corner here. Just got a little spider web over the lens there. That's what Wium was removing. So Angel Lady just off to our right, in this tree over here. Last year there was paradise flycatcher nesting just in these branches over here. But the nest wasn't very successful, and we always tried to sit and watch, but they wouldn't come back to the nest when we were in the area, so it wasn't the most successful nest site, and I think they decided to go to a different nest site. They weren't there very long. They built beautiful tiny little cup nests though. And for those of you who don't know what the paradise flycatcher looks like, it's an awesome bird. The males have got an incredibly long orange tail streamer, and the female basically looks exactly the same as the male, barring this tail streamer. So we're going to keep an eye out for those, and we will certainly be able to show you some in the coming weeks, I can assure you. We've still got quite a few migratory birds that still need to return from their winter homes, and Chris Rogue has asked or mentioned that she can't wait to see the flying jewels, which are the woodlands kingfishers. Incredibly beautiful birds, the woodlands kingfishers, and I think that it's not going to be long until they get back. I think they could already be a little bit late, so that's something to look forward to. Not only their beauty, but also their loud call. Chick! Brrr. So that's something we all are looking forward to, Chris. And what's the date today? It's the 6th of November. Maybe some of you would be interested in playing a little woodlands kingfisher lottery and placing some friendly bets or some kind of bets. Oh, the Egyptian geese waddling off in the background there. Now you can see the fourth hippo. It's not easy, but you can see its body. It's the one that's kind of moving now. You can see 3 bodies lined up on the left. So 4 hippos, not just 3. It might actually be worth watching the Egyptian geese for a moment or two, because they look to be doing the inverted submarine as they feed on aquatic plant mats at the bottom of this drying up pond. They won't always feed like this, so this is actually wonderful to see. And more typically they'll eat fresh grass green shoots on the banks surrounding waterholes. This is more duck-like behavior. Ducks are more prone to feed on aquatic matter, whereas geese like to feed on land. Oh, that's a youngster on the other side there. Look at how awesome it is. It's climbing up onto mom or dad, the incredibly scarred individual. Look at this. Cute. Shame, look at those scars though. Very deep lacerations. Thankfully hippo have got very thick skin, so the wounds, as bad as they appear, often don't affect any vital organs.
What do you think of that excited squirrel?
I can't share it, Wium. Where is it?
Sounds
Wium can hear a squirrel. And I've just started sharing it now. Maybe we should drive across there quickly. I'm just going to cup my hands behind my ears. It's quite windy, so not easy to tell exactly where this noise is coming from. And by cupping my hands behind my ears, it may help increase the size of our satellite dishes. And that way be able to get us a little bit closer straight into that area. So let's drive up there quickly. Oh, well, thank you very much, Auntie Lynn, for confirming that there were actually 4 hippos here yesterday. No way, we've got something awesome here. This is going to be incredibly cute. Can you see those little birds there, Wium? Now this is something I haven't seen before. Baby 3-banded plovers. Look at how cute that little thing is. I'm not sure where the second one's gone. It's a tiny, tiny little furball. That thing is probably the size of a ping pong ball, if that. Oh, it's going to join its mother now. There's mom or dad, and there's a tiny little chick. And there's 2 that I can see running around. They could be just days old. Awesome. And a few more wonderful birds have also come into the area that I'll show you a bit later, but let's make the most of these cute little chicks. Now with some bird species, they will rely on their mothers and fathers to feed them and nurse them for many days and possibly weeks before they can fend for themselves. But birds like these little 3-banded plovers will be able to fend for themselves from the moment they hatch. All that they will need from their parents is guidance. And that's the same for geese, the Egyptian geese that we've seen. Well, we're just going to try and get you a comparison of an adult and a youngster in the same frame. You did get a brief glimpse of that earlier. Here's another one. Well done, Wium. Now, the adult is already a tiny bird. And what I'm thinking of doing is actually, I don't know what a good comparison is, but I guess the balls of elephant dung that they're walking past gives you a good idea of how small they are. Tiny they are. And that's mainly them calling, that you can hear the tweet, tweet, tweet. It's the adults keeping in touch with the youngsters. I think it is just 1 adult and 2 youngsters that I can see. But there is another adult feeding on the water's edge. Now a go away bird calling. What has it seen? I hope it's not a potential threat. As a bird of prey would be a dangerous customer for those tiny little chicks. What you'll find is with a lot of those tiny birds that are born with the ability to kind of fend for themselves but need their parents' guidance, is that their camouflage is incredible, and if there's any danger, their parents will let off the alarm, and all they need to do is literally flatten themselves to the ground. Just drop flat, stop what you're doing, lie down, and the camouflage will do the rest most of the time. Well, good to know that there's some new additions to the birds here at Buffelshoek Dam. The squirrel appears to have stopped alarm calling. No, it hasn't. It's still going. So let's go up around onto the other side of the waterhole and try to work out what the squirrel has seen. It could be a leopard, a lion, a bird of prey, a snake. Got some dates coming through already for when the woodlands kingfishers will be arriving, and Mike, who's desperate to see them, says the 16th of November. Kathy says the 20th, that's her guess. And Christy thinks the 23rd is going to be the day. Thanks for the update from Lynn saying that Brent mentioned that last year the woodlands kingfishers arrived on the 12th of November. So we're certainly getting to that time, and it's going to be wonderful to not only see them but also hear them. It's strange that it's one of the and sorry, I forgot to mention that that little dip hasn't got very good signal. As I was saying, it's one of those sounds of summer that at the beginning of the year, it's one of the most awesome things you can hear, or at the beginning of the summer. But come the end of summer, you have had absolutely enough of their call, as they are highly vocal birds. So I'm just going to creep forward a few more meters and stop the vehicle and try and pinpoint where exactly the squirrel is shouting. It's somewhere in and around here. Okay, turtle dove calling. Kru, kru, kru. Pete Mayfro, red-chested cuckoo. Okay. The squirrel is in a tricky spot. Sounds like it could be on the other side of this riverbed. We'll try and get around there. Iron tracks here. Interesting. This looks to me like it could even possibly be not as lioness. I was thinking maybe a large male leopard. Too big for a leopard, I think, but there are some tracks just down here on our right that VM can show you. There's one there, another one up here. Tricky in this very soft sand because the tracks will look far bigger than they actually are in soft sand, as there's more movements as the pad is depressed. Okay. Not sure what eagle there is soaring above us. We should be able to get you a glimpse if it leaves the area of the tree. There we go. What are you? Oh, not easy to identify from here. It looks like it's actually feeding on something. Could be a snake eagle. I think it is a snake eagle, but can't be certain. But we'll be seeing a lot more birds of prey now that it starts to heat up. It's heating up drastically at the moment. I've just peeled off my jersey. Most of the birds of prey will wait until it's heated up so that they can more effectively and efficiently ride the hot air thermals rising off the earth. That's why the early hours of the morning you typically don't see too much in the way of eagles. Well, the squirrel seems to have gone quiet, so we will give up on that search, but always nice just to move around a little bit and explore the general area like this waterhole rather than just stopping at one edge of it. Stay here and enjoy watching these hammerkops groom themselves on the backs of the hippopotamus. Well, this could well be a monogamous pair of hammerkops. They do form lifelong bonds, and the interesting thing about them is not that they're monogamous. Many birds are monogamous, but the fact that they build an absolutely ginormous nest, sometimes 2 meters by 2 meters, often large enough even for other birds and birds of prey often to nest on top of the platform. They nest within this massive nest. So they kind of have a little cavity or entranceway in the middle somewhere, and they go into a central chamber within this massive 2 meter by 2 meter box. But sadly there's no hammerkop nests around. They must be nesting somewhere, and hopefully it won't be long until we find one of those nests. Okay, well, we're gonna continue now. I'm keen to try and work out where these wild dogs have gone, even if we don't find them this morning, which is still possible, but it's nice just to know where they're moving or where they could be, so that this afternoon we've got a better plan of attack.
Oh, I'm afraid to say that Shadow has given us the slip. We have found these incredible ellie bulls. This one in particular is really nice and big, but he is quite shy. I'm going to try go up a little bit to him. I think the wind is making them a little bit skittish. Set my engine run for a bit. Really beautiful big bull with a ripped up ear. Never fear, I haven't given up on finding Shadow. Just given her some time to move through that block. Honestly don't know how she did it. She just disappeared. She's taken a leaf out of her mother's book. Quite phenomenal, actually. I don't think our bull wants to be on camera. The amber one is quite happy though. Yeah, he's watching me out of the corner of his eye. He's just not quite comfy. Let's try to get ourselves around him without startling him too much. He really is a stunning male. Oh boy. I know that he is through the trees at the moment, but he's going to move out and into our space soon. So we'll just sit here and let him choose to come to us. He's got got such an interesting ear. It's got huge flaps cut out of it, probably where he hooked it on thorns or branches. And quite often what happens with that is then it gets slightly infected and it makes the wound bigger. And those flaps will not ever heal up. It's also got some fairly impressive tusks. Definitely not the biggest I've seen, but he is growing into being a really nice big bull. Something phenomenally peaceful and tranquil about male elephants, especially a little bit older. There you can see he's hiding in the trees, but he will come to us, or he will come out into the open. And I said that the wind might be making them a bit skittish. I'm not sure if you can hear it. It's died down a little bit. His tail's swinging. He is a happy elephant, munching away. Now giving us every sign of being comfortable. Earlier on he was a little bit unsettled, doing that rocking motion that elephants do when they can't quite decide what they think about your presence, and then they shift their weight backwards and forwards and onto different hips. You can see he's making short work of what looks like a blue guarri tree. Just blowing out some air there. You can see the pink of his mouth as he works that trunk around. I love watching them feed. Well, poor Rizzo. I'm glad we managed to finish off our Big Four list for this morning's drive. Not bad, really. We've done pretty well for a morning drive and seen quite a few things. That's the wonderful aspect about these, or just being in the bush actually. It's not just the live safaris, it's being out here in the wild, is that you never know where your day is going to take you. And I must add that I never ever thought I'd see a white-faced mongoose, just to add to the list. That was definitely a fascinating find, but it wasn't actually my find, it was Tebbs' find. So we have him to thank for his excellent spotting eyes. And as for Miss Shadow, I'm sure we will find her again. I just wanted to stop and have a look at this beautiful, peaceful bull. Although he hasn't done as I requested him to, he hasn't come out into the open, that's okay. Here's that tattered ear that I was talking about. I mentioned earlier that he is rocking backwards and forwards a little bit, and Rhea, he was saying it looks like he has a wonky hip. It could actually be. It might explain why he's a little bit unsettled, although he didn't seem to be limping. I think he's just resting on one hip. As humans do when they stand, you sort of shift your weight from side to side, and I think that's what he's doing. But I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see if as he moves. He's not being very cooperative though. He's kind of hidden himself away behind the guarris. Hello, boy. Come on. Come say hello. Nope. I'm going to hide 5 tons of animal behind one very small guarri bush instead. You get a certain sense of peace sitting with them. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm always filled with a sense of contentment. Tebbs once again has spotted another friend coming to join the party, hoping he's going to come up gently. Make sure I don't. He's going to disappear into the block. That's not very considerate, Mr. Elephant. Let's see if he comes through. He might walk up the road slowly once he's finished snacking on the bush willow. And I'd like to see him out in the open because it'd be a useful way to answer Vernie's question about the visual cues that we look for. Vernie, I haven't heard your name before sending questions through. I don't know if you are new to Safari Live or new to sending through questions, but it is fantastic to hear from you. You were wondering about the visual cues that rangers look for in terms of interpreting the animal's mood. I would really like to be able to demonstrate it to you by looking at the elephant, but they all seem to be camera shy today. But give me a moment and I'm going to try and reverse away and hopefully we can see at least the one bull who is behind me. Let's try and do this slowly without upsetting our friend here. Hello, boy. And just to add, I don't think for 1 second that they understand the words I'm saying, but elephants definitely understand tone and they respond to it as well. I think we might have to take this for now, peeking out from the side of the trees. It's amazing where they managed to squeeze that bulk into. So, visual cues. Elephants are some of the most expressive animals out here, and they tell you all about what they're thinking. On the most basic level, if an elephant approaches you with ears out, shakes their head at you, make themselves look big and strong. Oh, buddy, why are you hiding there? And so any sign that they are trying to make themselves look bigger, intimidating in any way, shaking their head, waving their trunk, that's a sign of their attempt to let you know that they're uncomfortable. It's actually not necessarily aggression. It is, hey, stop there, I'm watching you, I'm bigger than you, I don't want you to come any closer or do anything else. The other really important mood indicator is their tail. Often when they're calm and relaxed, it waves gently from side to side. When they're really agitated, they'll actually stiffen it or lift it up and curl it up a little bit above their bodies. That's another sign. It's a useful sign, especially if all you can see is their bottom and you want to know how they're responding to you. The tail is a good way of watching. And then in terms of charges, there's no such thing as a mock charge. If an elephant is coming towards you, he means business, but a lot of the time it is a warning. So they don't intend to follow through, and that's usually when they come jogging towards you, ears out, trunk waving, making a lot of noise, looking really big and intimidating. That's usually, and I use that word tentatively, that's usually a warning charge. The next step is if they go quiet and they fold their trunk up and they tuck their ears back and they come silently, that's a very, very serious charge. That means that elephant means business. But it's all about respecting them and their personal space. Elephants do not attack without reason. There may be 1 or 2 cases where you don't know exactly what's been happening in the elephant's life, but for the most part, they've got a serious capacity for thought. They're not mindless creatures, and they're not out to get us, obviously, as we can see. He is perfectly peaceful. So the trunk, the ears, and the tail are the main parts of the body language that we watch. And one trick they do employ, which is he's eating now because he's perfectly calm and relaxed. You can see it in every aspect of his body language. He's not even looking at us. Aha, hello my boy. Our other bull, he's still not popped out yet. We'll stay with this male for now. And hopefully our other bull with his tatty ears is going to come out soon. What I was going to say is we're watching this bull munch away at the bush willow. Sometimes what elephants do is known as displacement behavior. So if they're upset with you, but they can't quite decide how to handle it or what they're going to do, then they pretend to feed. So they put food in their mouths. Ah, here we go. Thank you, mister. Oh, don't disappear. There we go. This is the beautiful bull I was talking about with his tatty ear. Nice and relaxed again. Look at that ear. It's incredible. There's our elephant that Rio was talking about earlier. He said he looks like he's got a wonky hip on his right side, apparently, and looks almost as though it might have been broken or maybe even dislocated. The way he's leaning at the moment, it's hard to tell because he's shifted his weight onto that right hip. What we need to do, Rio, I didn't notice, but I'm not actually questioning you. It's entirely possible. But what I need him to do is walk away from me so I can have a look at the way that he's moving. He is having a fantastic time with that bush willow. Crunch. I love watching the way they coordinate that whole process. Trunk to mouth as opposed to hand to mouth. Using that incredibly dexterous tip. Actually amazing to think about that trunk and what a unique device it is. It serves so many purposes, and there's no other animal that I can think of that really, apart of course from the Asian elephant, that has a nose that is so dexterous and well developed and capable of so many different tasks. Tiny little moments of coordination to twist and turn and get those leaves exactly where they want them. He's got that waxy deposit in the corner of his eye. We often see elephants with those. Oh, we've got some exciting bird action on Scott's end, so let's head across there quickly. I'll be back with you soon.
Look at this cheeky fork-tailed drongo giving the African Harrier Hawk a hard time, pecking it on the back of the head. Isn't it wonderful to see such a small bird displaying such bravery? And it's trying to chase this African Harrier Hawk away. They are notorious for feeding on small chicks that live in cavities in trees or any nests really. And that's why this fork-tailed drongo is doing a great job in getting rid of it, forcing it into another area. Can you believe it? Doesn't always go on for this long, so this fork-tailed drongo is obviously got it in for this raptor. And you'll probably find it squawking at it as well, but it'll be very far away, so we won't be able to hear the calls of the drongo. Happy to hear that you're enjoying a great elephant sighting with Jamie, and as I'm sure a couple of you already pointed out, the big 4 has now been ticked off. What a morning. And we're going to send you back there, and we'll catch up a little bit later. We're on our way to the lions.
really, really love it when fork-tailed drongos do that. I'm just looking at his hip. Rio, you're absolutely right. He has definitely... Sure, it's actually really bad. I can't believe I didn't notice that earlier. Rio, you're right, and that explains his mood. Oh, that looks sore. That looks very, very sore. The way that he's dipping down like that. His one hip bone is out of alignment by about half a meter below the other. Okay. Well done, Ria. Well picked up on. He definitely has a wonky hip. He looks very uncomfortable. And that explains why he's a little bit edgy with us. Now, what I could do is reposition to see him. Let's try and get him as he moves away. But I'm not going to follow him, because that looks exceptionally painful. Going to watch him for a moment. As I said, I'm not going to follow him any further because I don't want to cause him to have to move faster or more than he has to. Now, he's easily identifiable apart from his wonky hip. He's got that incredibly tattered ear. And Mercedes, you were wondering what it was that caused those tatters and rips in his ear. And most likely thorns that hooked in. And it just takes a little nick and a cut, and then what happens is, because that ear skin is so thin, just a little bit of infection that eats away at the edges makes it bigger and bigger, and then once it does start to flap, then it's easier to hook. And you can imagine, you've seen the environment that they move through. I think that's pretty much how elephants, and all elephants have patterns of rips on their ears, even if they don't appear to. They'll have tiny nicks and cuts and spots. As for what's happened to his hip, I honestly don't know. He might have fallen, although elephants tend to be quite coordinated creatures, but he could have fallen. Or it could have been, I suppose it's possible it was a birth defect, but I don't think so. It seems to me like an injury, something that's happened fairly recently by the way that he's limping. It's not swollen though, so it might not have happened in the last few weeks. I think our ex-ranger has quite an interesting idea behind what happened to his ears. Maybe he went through a punk stage and had his ears pierced, and his dad didn't like them when he came home and tore them out. I quite like that idea, but it does certainly give him character. Shame. Poor boy. Cassandra, he is a character. I wish him all the best. It's never nice seeing an animal like that. Hopefully it will heal up. There we go. We've got an okay view-ish without pushing him too hard. And we can see the dip in his hip. Yeah, thank you, Tebbs. There you can see where his hips drop down. Sure. Dislocated, possibly broken. Shame, boy. Sorry about that. Now, we might see him around. He is a bull, so that means he's going to cover more ground, although maybe not as fast as the others. But Vernie, you were wondering if we see the various individuals, if there's certain individuals that we do see regularly, if they have if they hang out in an area more often, if there's certain groups that hang around Djuma and Arathusa in our traversing area. And there are, I think it is seasonally dependent. It depends on the resources, but we have had weeks where we've seen the same herd over and over again. There's one individual in particular that I know has been seen over the last year of the live drives at least, and that is the elephant with the snared trunk, a female with a sort of three-quarter trunk. It's cut off towards the end, and it's healed up perfectly. She's perfectly capable of feeding herself, and she's got two youngsters with her. She, to me, is one of the most recognizable ones. And then there's an elephant with a backward-facing tusk, and then there's also another elephant with a backward-facing tusk, but a third tusk. So the backward-facing tusk goes down like that, and then there's a tiny little tusk that sticks out of the top. All elephants that are really easily identifiable. I think we probably do see them regularly. Elephants do have home ranges. They can be enormous, and of course we're open to Kruger. So these animals have 3 million hectares worth of ground to wander around in. But you will find that certain herds are more familiar with places than others. It's not like lion prides where they are only really in that area. They do move around and it's quite fluid, but there will be certain herds who favor areas. We will see them. I know that those two big bulls, there's one big bull that Brent is very fond of, who's been hanging around Djuma for the last few weeks, and I hope he sticks around, but again, you could see him anywhere. This elephant with a tattered ear, we will always know now. He's disappeared off completely, and as I said, not going to follow him, but we will always recognize him. The nice thing that is in his favor is if that has healed up, if it is a dislocated hip, animals are incredibly resilient. He'll form a nice scar tissue capsule around that hip. He'll still walk with a limp, but it probably won't hurt him very much. And because of his size, it means that he's not really all that threatened from predators. It's not going to make him that much more vulnerable. Certainly, even a big lion pride with big males is going to think twice before taking on a male like that. Let's see if we can get this male once again. And try and get his trunk. Bringing down a whole branch, casually. Just having a look at this male through the trees. Other ones disappeared. As I said, in answer to Bob's question, his hip is never going to come exactly right. It is always going to be shorter than the other. He's always going to walk with a limp. I would say an injury like that with a dislocation level like that, it's highly unlikely to heal, but it will get better. He'll still walk with a limp, but I think he'll be okay. I hope so. I do feel for him. Definitely looks very uncomfortable. Of course, we can speculate as to what happened to his hip, and I think that Paul has got a very good theory. It could be an injury that's been done to him by a fight with another male, particularly when they're in must. Now, usually young bulls like him would stay away from challenging older bulls, but as Paul said, when they go into must, which is that heightened testosterone state, they have a little bit more aggression. They are more tempted to try and follow the females and take risks to mate with them. And it could be that he encountered a larger bull, and that larger bull, and really it's only elephants that are capable of inflicting such tremendous injuries on another elephant. It's unlikely to have come from anything else. And just off to the left, we saw this bird with Scott earlier, but just to the left of our elephant is Drongo. That wasn't very nice. Come back. I know that you were watching the Drongos dive bomb the Harrier Hawk, and now we see them in a different action state, which is, I'm sure lots of our regular viewers have seen them fluttering about. He's following this elephant to try and catch insects that are being disturbed by him. know that to see that elephant bull, and believe me, it is very sad to see from our side as well. Nobody likes to see an animal in pain. And I, in particular, have a soft spot for elephants. Anna Marie, you're right. It is a hard life out here. It's survival or die for all out here. It's a tough world, and it's an unforgiving one. And little disadvantages and injuries are inevitable. I hope he's okay. I'm sure he will be. I said that he will survive and probably heal up fairly well, if not, although with always the weakness around that hip. Destroying this entire bush willow here. But just Mom, you have an interesting question, and that's whether or not he'll be able to mate. And the answer is he'd have to get lucky. And I think that bearing his weight on his two back legs, which males have to do when they mount the female, might be a challenge for him. And again, he would, as I said, he'd have to get lucky because there'd have to be no other males competing for access to that female. Personally, I think it is unlikely that he'll have a chance to mate. But you never know. You might encounter an elephant herd where there's no other males. You've picked up on a female in estrus. I think it would be difficult for him though. I can imagine standing on that back leg, with 5 tons worth of weight would not be terribly easy. We've spent some amazing time with a very special elephant, but I do want to go back and see if I can find Shadow for the last few moments of our sunrise safari. Maybe she's made her way towards the drainage line system. In the meantime, Scott has returned to the Birmingham Boys, so let's head across there. I'll be back with you later.
So as expected, the Birmingham Boys are all still lazing about here, very close to the Vuyatela Dam or Juma Dam. Sadly though, they will be out of view of the waterhole camera, but if they do decide to go for a drink, which they could well do even during the course of the day, I'm sure the camera will then be able to pick them up. But now they're obscured by a lot of vegetation. One of them have got its head up, doing a little bit of grooming. But they all seem to be on the go slow, which is normal behavior, and like I said, just as we expected. And they will sleep for about 16 to even 20 hours a day, which doesn't leave us much time to catch them on the move. I know Mo in Chicago is interested to know when are they most active, and certainly at night, especially in the summer months, Mo, when it's very hot during the day. Winter's more conducive to predators being on the move, especially lions during the daylight hours. But even taking this temperature aside, the cover of darkness is what suits them best. So even in cold temperatures and cold climates, you'll tend to find lions will generally move the most at night time. The same does go for leopard, but it's not necessarily the case every single day. And even though they may have a routine for any given time of the year as to when they are most likely to get active in the evenings or in the mornings, nothing's ever fixed out here in nature. And they could surprise us, and all 5 of them get up now and go for a drink, even though it is unlikely. I've got some good news. Well, it's relatively good news, and that is that 2 cheetah have been found. Not too far east of our eastern boundary, but sadly in an area where we cannot go. But the good news is that they are in the general area, and cheetah is one big cat that we don't see nearly as much as lion and or leopard, which we've been lucky enough to see this morning. But it's important to just let you guys know, because there is a chance that they could pop up. And Laurie Ward was just asking about cheetah this morning and said we haven't given any updates recently. Well, there we go, Laurie. They are still around, but they aren't seen very frequently. And the Sabi Sands is definitely not one of the wilderness destinations you would decide to go if cheetah was your favorite animal. There's not many around here. And that's mainly due to the fact that there's a lot of lion and leopard. Now, even though the vegetation's thick in this area, that's not the only thing that prohibits cheetah being here. They're highly adaptable, they can hunt and be successful in thick bush, even though that's not what they're designed for. Their incredible speeds of up to about 60 miles an hour will be used best in open clearings. Now, if we were to take all the lion and leopard out of the Sabi Sands, there would be plenty of cheetah and they would do well. But because of the thick vegetation combined with the high amount of predators that will both be able to kill cheetah, both lion and leopard are more powerful and dominant than cheetah and will kill them. So sadly, that's one big contributing factor to why we don't see cheetah very often. It's also a reason why wild dog numbers aren't huge in this area. Most pups that will be born every year will not make it to adulthood, and it's an absolute miracle that the parents, the 3 adults of the pack that we have been lucky enough to see over the last few weeks, have been remarkably successful in keeping 11 pups now for probably 2 or 3 months since leaving their den site. When we were sitting here this morning, because I knew the wild dog were in the general area, the thought did cross my mind that I hope that the wild dogs don't come tearing through the bush in towards this waterhole, because that's often how they come unstuck. They move at high speeds and they can run straight into animals like lions, which with one swat of their massive paws would kill the wild dogs. They are so much smaller than these big male lions. Some good news. Just earlier we said we can't be sure what lions will do. We can. It was just a lioness repositioning in the shade, but we can't see too much from this angle. I was hoping they were going to go for a walk to the waterhole. Let's go and have a look at those two, because they have just moved, so they might still have their heads up. It's the lioness and another male from the pride. For those of you who weren't with us earlier, I should have mentioned that there's four members of the Birmingham coalition that we've just been sitting with, and then another one lying off about 20 meters away with one of his girlfriends. Urinating, so you'll see an increasing puddle, although the ground is so dry at the moment. So there's interesting lion behavior. She's got up and walked, and look at him doing the Fleming grimace. So that smell is probably driving him crazy, and that's why as soon as she got up He got up and followed her. She must be coming into season. There goes another Fleming grimace. He's curling his upper lip to... Sadly, he's not doing it facing us, otherwise that would have been a little bit better, because we could have seen exactly what he's doing, but he's almost smiling, which opens an organ on the upper palate, which allows him to better process smell. Lions, leopard, buffalo, a lot of animals have the ability to do this. And hopefully it won't be long before these two are mating. And then it won't be long until this lioness will give birth. Only about a 3-month gestation period. There's the grimace again. What I think I might do is actually just reposition the vehicle so that we're facing him more head on in case he does it again. Looks like he might. He's going in for one more big sniff, and then after this big sniff he should do the grimace again. Here he goes. And you can even see the little drops of moisture dripping off his nose. His mouth is watering, you could say. He's just keeping a close eye, making sure his brothers aren't getting as excited as he is. It would be wonderful to know exactly what information he is receiving, but it's clearly exciting him. And he can't seem to get enough of it. Lion is just lying there patiently. Look at how cool this is. So this is again called the Fleming grimace, which opens up the Jacobson's organ or vomeronasal organ, depending on your preferences. I think it's time for him to now relax. Very pretty lioness this. She looks to be in good condition. She's got a very nice face. And she doesn't look nearly as well fed as the males, and I think I saw her tracks coming in from an easterly direction, so I think she could have joined up with them sometime last night. I just had a brief look at the tracks. The rest of these males appear to have come from the west. So they may have just joined up recently last night, or maybe these two joined up with the other 4 males. I'm told that that's how they have been spending a lot of time over the last few weeks. This biggest male on his own, or with the lady, and the other 4 males all together. Now, Vernie is interested to know if this is the most dominant male within the coalition of Birmingham males, and yes, he will be. The fact that he has got the lady and the other 4 are lying off to the side is a clear indicator that he is the most dominant. I'm not sure if it is the same one that mated with the Solala Pride Vernie that you're talking of. There's been so many ongoings that I've lost track of what's happened, but there have been other males within this coalition seen mating with females. Now, that will happen from time to time. If one male is absent or possibly very tired, another male will be allowed the right to mate. But I think he is certainly the biggest of the 5, and size matters out here, Vernie. Usually the biggest are the strongest, and the strongest are the most dominant. But that won't necessarily last forever, and his brothers and cousins are catching up to him in size. I think he was just fortunate to be born a little bit older than them. So he's got a few months of extra growth, but they will eventually all catch up and be equally sized. And then we may see a shift in dominance. The dominance is only really applicable, though, when it comes to mating. I guess also at the kill, size will be able to, and strength will be able to jostle one individual into a best position over another. And also decision making to a degree. Lady's taking some time to do some grooming. When are you two going to start mating, or what's going on here exactly? It's difficult for us humans to understand. Hey? And which pride are you from, missus? What you should do is go and call the rest of them and tell them to come and stay at Juma. For long. You're welcome, all day, every day. And John has just remarked that he thinks that this is a smart lioness to team up with these 5 Birmingham boys for the time being, and you're right, John. It's not a bad spot to be if you're a lioness. I'm just going to reposition the vehicle ever so slightly. Ephraim has just arrived on the scene. His guests. Oh, that's not going to work too well. Anna Marie has just asked if this male is the individual who's been named Scrapper, and no, Anna Marie, he's not. Scrapper's got a lot bigger black rings around his eyes, and his mane isn't nearly as big. This is the biggest individual of the 5, but it's really difficult to compare them unless you have all 5 of them lined up. They all do look quite similar. The scrapper's not quite as big. Sadly, what makes it difficult for all of us is that the majority of the time that we see them, they're all lying down and sleeping, which doesn't make for the best comparisons. But in time we'll get lucky and be able to hopefully spend some more time with their heads up and on the move, and that way we'll start to pick up the differences in them a lot easier. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to the prospects that are about this evening with these 5 males on the center of Djuma. We'll take them at least about 15 or 20 minutes of walking before they get off the property from their current position, so that's something to look forward to. And even though it's a very, very bright sunny day, it's remarkably cool at the moment. I'm not sure what the temperature is now, but it's not nearly as hot as it should be at this time of the year. Cool breeze blowing, and cool weather is lion friendly. If it's swelteringly hot, they may sleep well into the night before moving.
Yeah, because we can be in the
Hello everyone. Just saying hello to all the people who've arrived in the vehicle behind us. So I didn't really have a good moment to acknowledge them as they arrived. Well, nice to see the male trying to snuggle up to the lioness here, making the first moves. She doesn't seem too interested in him. So here's a good characteristic feature as Wium zooms in. Bit of a pink nose. Not all big males will have pink noses, and also quite distinctive scratches and scars on his face. So Anne-Marie, I think this would be a good opportunity to get a screenshot of him, and I'd suggest all of you, if you'd like to get to know these lions individually, take some screenshots of some close-ups on their faces, and the scratches and scars and the color of their nose will be a good way for you to be able to work out who's who. And even if you just give them your own individual names, or even if you just number them 1 to 5, then you can at least keep track of who's who. And it's probably something we should think of doing sooner rather than later, giving them their own personal identities. Not necessarily to be able to point out which each different one is at each given moment, but just to keep track of what goes on and the changes in relationships and dynamics between them. The little tree growing out from the lioness or the lion's mane is a marula tree, and it's got a long way to go before any leopards are going to be sleeping in it, but for now you could almost, it's got another big cat lying on top of it, not really on one of its logs, but that's what that tree is there. A long, long way to go before it gets to one of the iconic marulas that we get in this area.
This young man is doing very well.
I'm just going to let Ephraim know that there are some more members of the coalition just up ahead. If
Hello?
the rest of the Madoras are just up ahead, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Not English.
No ingwe if.
Nah.
Everyone was asking if we had seen any ingwe, which are leopard, and sadly not here on Djuma. I wonder where Shadow ended up disappearing to. Still good that you got to see a glimpse of her this morning, and hopefully this afternoon she'll reappear. And we've been quite lucky that every now and then she's been lifting up her head and taking a look around. Barbara has made the comment that her eyes look quite ghostly, and there's something about her eyes. She's got quite a pale face, I think, which adds to that. Also interesting to see how much smaller she is compared to this male once they lie like this right next to one another. His head looks just about twice the size of hers.
How many lines? Was it so many lines? Oh, 1 mile.
Well, we're going to stay here but send you across to Jamie. She would like to say her goodbyes as the safari comes to a close. Enjoy.
No luck with Shadow, I'm afraid. She appears to have melted into the shadows and disappeared off, but we have found an adorable baby Inyala for our last few moments of our sunrise safari. And it's actually quite a curious little one. I think it might be a male. I don't know if I'm imagining it. Oh, little one. You're so cute. Been watching us very carefully, trying to follow behind Mom, whilst keeping an eye on us at the same time. Little fluffy tail. And shift back and see if we can get a nice view of the little one before we finish off. Oh, and it's suddenly very warm in this jacket, having spent the entire morning on the border of being hypothermic. Okay, that might be a slight exaggeration, but it certainly felt that way. It's nice to be warm again. Let's try and get this little one for you. I'm going to pop out into the open nicely for us. All right, little Baba. It's okay. Oh, I think that Mom is going to cross in front of us. I'm going to let her do that and let her baby follow as well. Anyway, a big thank you to you all for joining us, and from myself and Tebbs, and a big thank you to Tebbs for spotting one of the most unusual sightings I've had for a long time, which was that white-faced mongoose. And hopefully we'll be able to catch up with Shadow for this afternoon's sunset safari. Hoping she's going to head into the shade in the drainage line. So don't forget to join us then. And a big goodbye for all of you. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world.
I'm sure you enjoyed the Inyala sighting. Just heard some noises that I thought were Inyala alarm calling, but it sounds like somebody doing some maintenance work at the lodge, hammering, which sounds quite bark-like. And I've just been chatting with Ephraim's guests on the vehicle behind us, letting them know what we do. And as so few people know about these live safaris, I keep urging everyone who does know to spread the word, because the more people that join in on the safaris, the more places we will hopefully be able to take you in the future. So spread the word, phone a friend, tell them to tune in this afternoon for the sunset safari. It would be a good time to join for the first time with these 5 males and the lioness here. I think there could well be some action tonight. Hopefully they're going to be doing some hunting, and if they do, we can always extend the broadcast. I've already started planning for that, but there's no guarantees. We'll just feel it out and see how it goes. Another reminder, in case you can't tune in on the Sunset Safari, is that tomorrow morning's drive will be half an hour earlier than normal, so 5 o'clock Central Africa time until 8 o'clock in the morning, just half an hour earlier. And also spread the word about that. Let your friends who watch the show know. A big thank you for joining, and it's been great fun. Well done to Jamie for getting us into this area where we found these lion. Kind of stole her thunder there. She called in the lion tracks and I asked her how I could come and help, and within a few minutes Wium had spotted these lions. And also thanks to Wium for finding the lions and for doing some great camera work along the way. Also to the girls in Final Control, great job. And we're going to spend the last minute just taking a close look at these magnificent lions. Who knows, maybe this afternoon there'll be some mating going on. And like I said, keep an eye on the Djuma waterhole camera. As the day heats up, these lions may get thirsty and head down for a drink. And I'm hoping that will be the case, and we'll head out this afternoon with some updates as to what time they were drinking. It's really wonderful, the camera, and all the information it provides us thanks to your reports. Okay, everyone, goodbye.